Rebecca? You there?
We're all set.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We are going to open up the Troy City Council Finance meeting. It is September 23rd, 6:02, not too bad. And I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and maybe Council Member Zalewski, you can lead us in the pledge tonight. Thank you.
Certainly.
Oh, I apologize. Hold on, I'll run and get the flag. I'm so sorry. Hold on.
I might have one. Nope.
We'll do a practice run. Wait, I got a little flag.
Oh, there we go. That's triple flags. I think that's acceptable.
I love your haircut, James.
I didn't break anything, did I?
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Council Member Zalewski,
All right,
thank
here we
you.
go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Council Member Zalewski. We'll do roll call. And I'll wait for the flag to, there we go. Thank you, Councilmember Cummings. I'm sure you did that. Councilmember Gully is on his way. He has a flat tire on the side of the road, so we're waiting for him. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Here.
Awesome. Councilmember Steele.
Present.
Councilmember Cummings.
Present.
Councilmember Zalewski. You're on mute. Oh, we can't hear you.
What?
You're very, very low.
That's weird. Was it working for the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, it was low, but I just thought that you were standing far away.
Huh. Okay. I need to figure this out. I don't know.
That's odd.
You might be able to boost it in the audio preferences.
Councilmember Gully's here. So hello, Councilmember Gully. You're okay?
I'm very good.
Good, good to hear. Councilmember McDermott?
Here.
And Council President Mantello is here. I do believe we need to approve the minutes from the prior finance meeting. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion if you can hear me.
We can hear you now. It's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I just adjusted it, so.
Awesome. Council members, Zalewski motions. Is there a second?
My second.
Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion on the approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval passes 7-0. Presentation of the agenda. We have a bulky agenda here. First and foremost, Andy Petruski is going to take us with the Bonadio Group for the 2020 financial audit presentations. We have a number of ordinances, a number of resolutions. So without further ado, we'll get right into the public forum. I believe we have one speaker, correct, Mara?
No, we had one person who signed up for the special meeting, but no one has signed up for the finance.
Okay, thank you. All right, Andy is with us with the Bonadio Group. He's going to introduce us to these wonderful folks. Take it away, Andy.
Good evening. On the Zoom with us is Alan Walter and Joe Hero from Bonadio. They have a PowerPoint presentation that my understanding is that they're going to go through with the overview of the audit, and we'll kind of work together. They'll answer any questions specific to the audit, and then further information I can certainly answer. Before they start, I do want to thank them. They were, as always, very professional in completing the audit, and we worked very well together. At least that's my opinion, and I hope it is shared by them as well. But I will turn things over to Alan and Joe.
Thank you, Andy. Just to introduce myself, I think I know everybody, but in case I haven't met you, my name is Alan Walther. I'm a partner with the Bonadio Group. I don't see him, but I know he is on the line as well. Joe Hero is a principal with the Bonadio Group. As Andy said, we are the city's auditors, and we have completed our audit for the year ended December 31st, 2020. I believe that Andy emailed to everyone draft reports the other night. I hope you did have a chance to review them. I prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation, as Andy said, that just walks through the results of the audit, and we'll run through that and then open it up for any questions. So,
Alan, before you go further, I apologize. Joe is with us and we can see him.
okay,
Okay.
excellent.
I'm hiding from Alan.
Okay, yeah, I have the whatever. I mean, you guys know how this goes with these views. You can see some people and not the others. Anyways, I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me 1 second. Okay, so you guys, we're sharing. Okay, so the first section that I'd like to run through, so we're as the city's auditors, really we perform 3 tasks for the city. We audit your financial statements. We also audit your federal programs in accordance with the Single Audit Act, and then we also audit your New York State DOT expenditures. So the first section that I'd like to run to is the results of our audit of the city financial statements. We've issued the reports in draft form. As far as we're concerned, they're substantially complete. Upon city council approval, they will be issued in the final form. So for the city council summary, we anticipate issuing adverse and unmodified opinions that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with GAAP upon committee acceptance, GAAP being generally accepted accounting principles. As you remember from past years, we issue an adverse opinion on your government-wide financial statements because the city does not depreciate its capital assets. Okay, so that opinion is the same as it has been. And we issue unmodified opinions on all the other financial statements, all the other funds, the general fund, capital projects fund, et cetera, et cetera. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements. We're also, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal controls. And we would also like to thank the Controller's Office and all the city personnel for their assistance during our audit. We did perform the audit this year for the 2020 fiscal year. We performed it substantially in the city offices, but that wasn't as much of a heavy lift as last year when it was done substantially remotely, but it's still, there's a lot of work, a lot of scanning, a lot of back and forth, and we thank the city for all their assistance. With regard to required communications, during the 2020 fiscal year, the city adopted GASB 84, GASB being the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which sets the accounting standards that all governments need to follow. The city adopted GASB 84, which pertains to fiduciary activities. And again, if you reviewed the financial statements, you saw that there was a fiduciary statement of activities this year. There were no transactions for which there was a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions have been recognized in the proper period. There are certain accounting estimates in the financial statements, compensated absences, other post-employment benefits obligation, accrued liabilities for self-insurance, net pension asset and liability, and related deferred inflows and outflows. With regard to those estimates, our role is to evaluate them and consider whether they are reasonable in relation to the financial statements as a whole, and we did that, and we believe that they are. The next slide, no significant difficulties in performing the audit or dealing with management. We did have adjustments which were reviewed and agreed upon by management. There were no disagreements with management with regard to accounting principles or access to accounting records or anything like that. We are not aware that management consulted with other accountants, and our discussions with management were in the normal course of our professional relationship, and our responses were not a condition of our retention. The next slide, some financial highlights. And this slide and the following slide pertain to the city's citywide financial statements. If you look through the financial statements, you'll notice that the city basically prepares two sets of financial statements in accordance with GAAP. Citywide financial statements, which are all the funds consolidated together, plus your long-term assets, minus your long-term liabilities, and you use the full accrual method of accounting at the citywide level, which means that you recognize assets regardless of when you consume them or turn them to cash, and you recognize liabilities regardless of when you pay them out in cash. Versus when we look at it, the fund level financial statements takes a 1 year at most look at your finances. You use the modified accrual method of accounting. Okay, so there's two different methods of accounting. So it shows two different pictures of the city's financial position. So the statement of net position, which is on page 4, if you had it, the highlights here, your net position as of December 31st, 2020 was $86.2 million. The definition of net position is the city's assets plus your deferred outflows minus your liabilities minus your deferred inflows is equal to net position. It should be noted, remember as well, that the city does not depreciate its capital assets, right? So your total assets are inflated. Some of the highlights here, current assets, 97.6 million, that's cash and receivables. Capital assets, again, which are not depreciated, 315 million. Deferred outflows, which are flow-throughs from your pension and your other post-employment benefits, 60.5 million. Current liabilities, 69.2 million. Long-term liabilities, 250 million, and deferred outflows of 67.2 million. Those deferred outflows, I'm sorry, that's deferred, should be deferred inflows. Those deferred inflows pertain to pensions and OPEB as well. The next slide, the citywide financial statements on the statement of activities, your net position increased by 25.2 million for 2020. Again, that's the citywide financial statement. The next slide is some of the highlights from your fund level financial statements, which again, if you have them on page 6. Some of the highlights here, your total combined fund balance, all of the various funds added together, fund balance totaled $29.8 million. Fund balance, the definition of fund balance is your assets minus your liabilities is equal to your fund balance. Your general fund balance total was 18.1 million. Water fund balance was 5.3 million. Sewer fund was 902,000. Garbage fund 455,000. The next highlights are your fund level financial statements, your statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, this is on page 9, if you have it in front of you. Your combined fund revenue was 100.3 million. Your combined expenditures 117.9, and your other sources were 7.7 million. That's your proceeds of debt, predominantly, resulting in a decrease net of in fund balance of 1.8 million. Some of the highlights: the general fund total revenue was 67.5 million. Fund balance decreased by 508,000. Water fund revenue was 11.7 million. Fund balance decreased 325,000. Sewer revenue was 4.2 million, and fund balance was unchanged. Garbage revenue was 3.5 million, and fund balance decreased 160,000. Your fiduciary funds on page 11 and 12, as I said, initially the city was required to implement GASB 84. So you see this information for the first time showing the city's collection of taxes for the county and for the Troy Library. And I am going to turn it over to Joe. And I have control of slides, Joe, so I will roll the slides, but Joe's going to talk about the results of the single audits. So, whoops, Joe, there we go. Whoops.
All right.
I'm a little fast with the wheel here, so.
All right. So as Alan said, I'm going to go over the single audit, which is the federal single audit, the DOT audit, and then the management letter at the very end. Before I start, though, I will just agree with Andy that we did work well together this year. You know, like Alan said, it's a heavy lift on the city's part to get us everything we need, and we got great cooperation as always. So
every year.
Yeah. So having said that, we'll jump right into the yellow book, the uniform guidance audit. We anticipate issuing the following reports. The yellow book, which is your internal control report, if you will. There's no material weaknesses or no significant deficiencies being reported. No instances of non-compliance material to the financial statements were reported. The uniform guidance report, which is a report on the major programs. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies there either with regards to the major federal awards. Our independent auditor's report on compliance for each major federal award program was an unmodified opinion. And this year, the major federal programs we were required to test were the CDBG entitlement grant, the CDBG loan guarantees, and the federal disaster grants. Going back, I think it relates to Tropical Storm or Hurricane Irene. So the next report is the DOT, the New York State DOT audit. Again, it's a single audit, similar to the federal audit. Unmodified opinion on the financial statements. No material weaknesses were reported. And what we test there, the total DOT expenditures, 1.5 million. And this year we tested the CHIPS program. Again, no issues at all there. And then the final one I want to go over, the management letter. We did issue a management letter this year. A certain year-end procedure was not performed timely, resulting in the need for journal entries to correct. So our recommendation is just to develop procedures to ensure an accurate, timely, and closing process. And I know Andy is presently implementing new procedures to try to close the gap and get rid of this management letter comment for next year. And that's all I've got. Questions?
Joe and Ellen, first I want to thank Bonadio. Certainly Andy has put a ton of time, he and his team. So I want to definitely give a shout out to Andy and his folks. I guess on a, larger scale, two quick things. The management letter, Andy did give us a heads up on that issue. And I think, Andy, it was primarily because of COVID last year, correct?
Yeah, if I can just for a second, I do want to address that management letter. It is not something I am proud of. I take pride in that. Prior to this is the first management letter I've gotten since replacing Joe. I will, though, say it is a very fair comment that is made in the management letter. It is essentially what happened was we recognized originally expenses in the wrong year. It was compounded by the pandemic, and that is no excuse, but it is a certainly a factor in that the city received invoices well after year end for the prior year, and that is what primarily occurred in this situation. We have already corrected within the comptroller's office the procedure of how that is going to be handled. That that comment in the management letter will not be there as part of the 2021 audit. I can assure everyone of that sitting here today that it is going to be corrected. It has already begun to be corrected, and you will not see that next year. But it is certainly the pandemic contributed to what occurred in this situation.
And, I guess on that note, 2 questions, Alan, Joe. I know that you have quite a bit of clients, municipal clients all throughout the state, which says a lot about Bonadeo. But more importantly, did you find that other munis also had this experience, number 1? And number 2, more importantly, is there anything that you have found either pro or con that other munis are doing? I'm a big believer in not reinventing the wheel, and basically, if somebody has a good practice, use it. Is there anything that you see from other munis maybe that we can incorporate, or things we're doing maybe that really highlight the city of Troy? And Andy, I believe, has done just a phenomenal job since taking over after Joe.
So, definitely with COVID, we've seen, delays in getting audits completed. I guess it should be noted for the city council as well. Typically, your audit is due September 30th with the single audit. It's extended. The federal government has given you an extension to March 31st. So the city has done well to get it completed by September 30th. It's not officially issued, but for all intents and purposes, it is done. We have, I won't name names to protect the guilty, but we have several other large municipalities that are not done, and they will not be done. So the city can be pleased that you have you've gotten your audit done. From a what can you guys do better? I mean, I think the ultimate goal, and I think Andy will agree with this, is to have the city is required to file its annual update document, right, with the state controller's office by April 30th, right? So the goal is to get everything done by April 30th and have the annual update document be as accurate as possible to the OSC. And then, once you guys get done with that, we start in with the audit. So, being a municipality, and it really comes down to, Andy's office is responsible for the accounting and the record keeping and preparing the reporting, but there needs to be, a great deal of cooperation among all of the other departments, right? I mean, Andy can't do this all by himself on an island. I think that's kind of where we were going with the with the management letter comment. Just get everybody working on the same page and try to set the goal of getting everything completed by April 30th. And as Andy said as well, one of our roles as your auditors is to follow up on these comments. So I can't say without, until the year ends, but we would expect that next year we won't have this comment. But, I think it's, certainly, I guess just to answer your questions, certainly we've seen, COVID has been extraordinarily stressful for all of our, we see people via Zoom, and it's like watching the president age, the gray hair, and it's just been tough. So yeah, you're doing very well, Carmel. My hair is gray. But it's, I think the city is doing well. You guys are ahead of a lot of your peers or other municipalities. And there's always, I guess, room for improvement.
Cool. Good. Council members, questions, concerns, comments? All All right. I think I could speak on behalf of all of us. Kudos to Andy and his team, and thank you, Bonadio. You know, I think it certainly was very fair and pointed out some important improvements that we need to work on. Great. Nice job, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Madeline. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Hey, guys, you're welcome to hang out for the rest of our finance meeting if you're interested.
We'll watch it on YouTube.
On YouTube.
We will read the minutes with the 21 on it. So
Fair enough.
thank you very much.
We do have a special meeting, just so you know, immediately following this, okay, for the audit. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. Okay.
Thank
you.
Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Night. All right, moving on, just really quick, I did have an update. Council members certainly would prefer being in person. One of the reasons we're Zooming, a couple of folks had asked, our council chamber is quite small, and to follow social distancing and mask, it's very difficult to put a large crowd in our council chamber. So we looked at other venues either wanted money or their IT and their acoustics. It would have been very complicated for us to switch that over. So thankfully, all of us had asked Mara to look into a hybrid type of method. Other municipalities are using that method, whereby the council, the mayor, the administration, we have over a dozen budget meetings and hearings coming up. So it's so much easier to be in person, and certainly we would much prefer being in person. So saying that, Mara and IT, we are hopeful to get a hybrid where the council, the mayor, the administration would meet in person, the public would Zoom in, and we're hoping to have that up and running for the October regular meeting. So stay tuned. And thank you, Mara, for pushing that forward. So without further ado, we'll get right into the agenda. And for the record, we have Rick Morrissey with us, our Corp Counsel. We have the Deputy Mayor, Monica Kuzieski. We have Aaron Vera, our City Engineer. Andy, of course, is with us. And Sharon Martin, our Assessor. We have a few property sales on the agenda tonight. So I want to thank the folks from the administration. And the mayor is not with us. The mayor took a very rare vacation this week. So Monica is next in line and is with us this evening. So, all right, we'll move forward. No local laws, ordinance 77, ordinance amending Tri-City Code, section 247, to exempt small solid waste haulers from the solid waste collection permit fee. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Members Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Council Member Gully. Discussion. Monica, I believe, Renee's memo was pretty self-explanatory, but basically we don't want to hurt the smaller haulers, i.e., say somebody's cleaning out their home. This would certainly, help them, this code amendment, correct?
Correct. I think it would be for some of the smaller, I know we heard from some of the smaller contractors who don't necessarily do waste hauling, but haul debris from some of their projects and stuff like that. So I believe it was more in line with that.
Yep. Is there questions on this? Discussion?
Council President,
Yep, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
just a couple questions. Was there ever a charge for this on the small haulers?
This was something that was introduced at last year's budget.
Last year.
So-
There's always been a hauler permit, like way long before I ever started working for the city of Troy. It was just never, it was never enforced or put into place.
Right.
So do you know what the hauler's fee is? I'm just trying to get clarity on what I'm
It's in the city code.
Okay, okay. Well, it's with this, so I'm assuming that the information would be available to give to us.
Yeah,
So-
well, it's in that Tri-City code. It was something that we passed last year.
Okay, so now any small hauler come in here, like taking down part of a building or whatever, something like that, and there's a small haul, they're not gonna be charged? Is that what I'm understanding this?
So it depends. I mean, if it's a bigger hauler doing works, but it's more like, I don't want to name names, right? So if there's a small contractor, and we've all seen some of the social media posts, right? So if there's a small contractor who takes care of his garbage for his properties and or his debris, like if he's cleaning stuff out, he's not considered a waste hauler. He's considered a contractor that does work. Rick, if you want to jump into the intent of this, but it's more so that if there's an actual waste hauler, those are the ones. If it's county waste, if it's Twin Bridges, it's some of the big dogs, then many municipalities have this. It's just that ours was never enforced and or permitted.
So how do we anticipate we're going to enforce this? So I have some stuff done at my house I want done. I get a hauler coming in here. How's it being enforced?
So we have a list. We've actually worked with some of the landfill sites and actually gotten lists of the haulers that dump. And then we've gone through that and actually, so we've already implemented this. This was actually done last year. You guys did a modification. This was the whole big thing you guys did a modification to for the rate. And then for last year, we actually sent out inquiries already. So it's just based on who dumps and who gets where. We got a list and we work off of that list. And then if we see others, or if we look at the list and they're a small hauler and they probably don't fit within the tonnage or with the size, then they fall under this.
So how often is somebody looking at that list to make sure that it's being followed and being enforced? That's what I'm trying to get at. How is this going to be enforced?
I don't know the exact answer to that. I certainly can ask Renee, but it's certainly something that we do on at least an annual basis because it's an annual bill.
So is there a report that you can give to the council showing that if somebody's doing this, they're being caught and they're being fined or whatever?
Sure.
Yeah, if I could jump in, there is fines, and Councilmember Ash McPherson, the deputy mayor's right, we overhauled it. And I recall last year we did it because it wasn't being enforced. The fees were not even in comparison to other municipalities. So as Monica stated, if you read this.
Council President, I understand all that.
Okay.
I'm just asking to make sure it's going to be enforced. That's what I'm looking for, to make sure it's going to be enforced.
Okay, you didn't have to interrupt me. I was just trying to help.
No, I got it. I just wanted to make sure that we're doing enforcement of it. That's all I'm trying to get clarity on.
Okie dokie. Deputy Mayor?
I thought I already answered that. Yes, we send out notices if we see somebody that doesn't have a permit. And I will be honest with you, there's one really big one right now that doesn't have a permit. And that's part of what we're working on.
All right, thank you.
Council member, the US for the fee, it's $200 per vehicle.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And also, the Commissioner of General Services is supposed to be overseeing this whole shebang.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. Further questions, comments?
Well, I'll just say that when you, Council President, when you said overhaul, you're supposed to say no pun intended. But
Thank you. Okay, further questions, discussion, puns, all in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Councilmember Cummings, I apologize.
Jumping in at the end here. So it sounds like with this, there'll going to be need to be some communication with sort of the contractor community that they need to apply for this exemption. Is that right? If someone doesn't apply for the exemption before being hired to haul something, I assume they're still subject to the penalties, or what's the process for, if you find out that the person you're looking to cite actually is just a small contractor that would be eligible for the exemption, what would be the process there?
Sorry, I'm finding my unmute, but I got like 16 iPads and everything else going so I could read the thing. You know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but I will get that answer for you and I will have Renee send that over to you.
Great. And as you're considering that, I don't know what the form will be like for the exemption, but it seems like it could be a useful set of information to have, the folks who are applying for exemptions. So just think about if there's any dual use or multiple use in terms of being, do we want them to, looking into is it just an application per company, or is there an application depending, like they're working on a particular job?
So it's an annual exemption. It's an annual fee, so it's an annual exemption. So by the middle of November, they have to notify us if they are going to be exempt from the hauler permit. And they have to provide their information.
Okay.
And
And it's based on total tips. So they'd have to at the Troy transfer station. So if they tip at the transfer station, which I'm sure they do, and we can verify, if they tip over an excess amount of tons, then we would verify that. And we can verify that on an annual basis.
Okay.
And I think if I recall now, it's all coming back. The liability insurance last year was a huge issue when we overhauled the whole section. And so we ended up meeting with some haulers and looking at other municipalities. And I believe we decreased the liability insurance a bit.
Yep.
If I recall.
That's correct, Council President.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Let me know when you know how the communication is going to work to our contractors.
Council member, I would just, obviously the exemption is just being passed tonight, so the process is kind of inchoate at the moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Questions, further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, ordinance passes 7-0. Sorry, I was in our code. Okay, ordinance 78, ordinance authorizing and directing sales of city-owned real property by the proposed sale application method. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. I would like to ask Councilmember Ash McPherson how she felt her first subcommittee for the real property subcommittee went, and fill us in on these properties and kind of, how you feel.
Thank you. Well, I sat in for Councilman Gully, and I just want to say that the process for all this, it's not just simple cut and dry. You have to actually go and look at properties. You have to actually look at the paperwork. You have to actually evaluate on these properties, and the amount of work that goes into it. I commend the committee for what they do. For sitting in there for the first time and having to go around and get to these properties and make sure I'm looking at the correct properties, because it was my first time doing it. It was quite interesting. I would suggest to any of the council members that are going to be still here on the council to look to see if they could go and just sit on the meetings and listen and see what the process is, because Sharon, Dave, Sharon, Monica, Jim, I'm assuming Anasha, they put in a lot of work looking at this, so I'd like to commend them for what they're doing. And yeah, I'm very content on what we did. I agree with everything that we've done on it, and I'm going to try and sit in on more of these meetings because it was quite interesting.
Councilmember Gully may have a problem with that. Haha.
I have no problem with that at all.
Councilmember Ash McPherson, were there any controversies? I do like to, know the backstory. Were there any, I did see that one gentleman, Miles Lewis, the 9th Street and the 8th Street. What's going on with that one, and any others that you felt might have, just maybe had to go into a little more detail?
Actually, there really wasn't much to go into detail on these. The property on 8th and 9th Street, I think it is, or 8th Street, 8th and 9th. The gentleman that the property was awarded to he's actually going to be going in front of planning because he wants to put some type of sheds on the property for the community to use. Which we thought that was a good thing to do, to get the community involved, and somebody's going to monitor their property, and that's a good thing. But other than that, there really wasn't much of a controversy on these questions that we went back and forth and asked, and it's really not anything major that I felt. Sharon or Monica, or did you see anything on there? I thought it went fine.
Okay.
I think the hardest part is actually going through the application, especially because a lot of the properties, like the Fifth Avenue property, had a lot of applicants. So trying to sort through those, and that's where the background from Dave Sheeran comes in handy, as well as, Sharon, and, looking at that kind of stuff, and the ability to kind of just see who's doing work, who's got vacant buildings, who's got not vacant buildings, who's easy to work with, who's got the financials. That's the other piece of this too, because when they submit financials, we obviously take a look at that just to make sure that, and it's not always the highest number. It's always looking at what's going to be successful.
Right. I did notice the 159 10th Street, that IQ Troy LLC, it was on the original proposal. They had a bid in and said the cost of repair was going to be $300K, and Astoria developer, what happened to that one, Sharon? It was on the original proposal list.
You're muted, Sharon.
Okay, so it was the general consensus that the neighborhood wouldn't go for something like that on such a small piece. So we didn't vote to move it forward.
Okay. What did they want to build? I just saw it on the list. I didn't look at their proposal.
They wanted to build I think a 2-family, if I recall correctly.
Okay. Any others polled, or all the others went forward?
There was, I'm sorry, there was another piece of vacant land on
10th Street, or no?
Linden.
Yes, it's 10th, but it was off of House Ave. It's kind of in a weird location. So we decided to keep that for now as well. It's rather a large piece of land, not easily accessible.
Okay, cool.
Council President, may I just say something fabulous?
Of course.
So if you vote yes on this list tonight, we don't have any more houses to sell.
Wow. Holy.
Yay.
Oh,
Congratulations,
wow.
everybody. It was
That's huge. That's
What will
huge.
we do for our next meeting?
It's going to be next year, Jim. And we might have 2 foreclosure lists next year, so things will change pretty quickly. But all we have right now available is, if this passes, is just vacant land.
That's amazing. That is an incredible stat. That's amazing.
We are excited.
Yeah, how many would you say we had 2-3 years ago?
I don't know, a lot.
Yeah. That's an amazing stack. Kudos to Corp Counsel, the council, Sharon in her office, Monica, Code, the whole team. Kudos. Any other discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. Ordinance 78 passes 7-0. Ordinance 79, ordinance amending the 2021 Special Grants Fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Council Member Gully. Discussion. All in favor? Oh, I did have a question. I apologize. Andy, real quick. I noticed that we're getting more money. Is there a game plan for the additional money at this point? Because I noticed.
It's a catch up of monies that were received through Carolyn Skripchak's office in CDBG.
Okay, so the CARES Act, like the business assistance, this is already encumbered. It's not new money.
I can check with Carolyn about what they're going to be using the money for. I know
Yeah.
that a lot of these are catch up from prior months,
Okay.
transfers
Yeah.
that he was looking for.
Yeah, I'd like a breakdown, like what went out the door, what's left. That'd be great. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Any questions, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, ordinance 79 passes 7-0. Ordinance 80, ordinance amending the budgets of the general fund, capital projects fund, and special revenue fund, and authorizing the creation of a capital project within the capital projects fund to allocate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. I just wanted to kind of kick this one off real quick. I truly believe we have an opportunity of a lifetime with the American Rescue Plan. If you look, and I'm not sure, Councilmember Ash McPherson, if you've gotten your binder yet, but if you open the link to the Department of Treasury, it's like 147 pages long. But if you read the summary, it really talks about building a foundation for the future. Not a lot of one shots, but really, whether it be healthy neighborhoods like we've talked about, we really want to focus on, whether it be affordable housing partnerships and things of that nature. But for me, it truly is an opportunity of a lifetime to really create better partnerships, better investment, building the healthy neighborhoods, really revitalizing our neighborhoods. And it's pretty strict what you could use the money for, because when folks saw the article in the TU on this, and AMC did a segment on, our first coming out the door, some people were saying we should use it for this, or we should use it for tax reduction. I get it. We want to do everything humanly possible to ease that burden on our property owners, our taxpayers, our residents. But it's very, very strict. And I'll let, Andy and Monica talk about that part, but the guidelines are super strict. But I do believe that there's areas, infrastructure, water, sewer. I mean, it's really specific, broadband, things to that nature. And I do believe the healthy neighborhoods will allow us to get into our neighborhoods, all of our neighborhoods throughout the city, to create really good grant programs for homeowners and things of that nature. So saying all of that, I'm really excited about this. We're going to have a new council next year. So the folks that are on this council, a lot of the decisions that you're making today is going to, be a decision that's going to last 10, 20 years. And the new council, obviously, also going into 2022. The monies have to be spent, I believe, by 2024. So, you know, this is a lot of money. Secondly, I just want to point out some folks in the community on social media have been contacting me about the money, and I went walking door to door a couple nights ago, and a couple people said, why do you have to use the money to hire, you know, a PR firm? Why do you have to use the money to hire an attorney and an auditor? Listen, 45 million bucks is half of our budget. It's a lot of money. We need to do this right. And the Treasury Department, the audits, the reports, they're pretty intense, and I'll let Andy talk about that part. But I just want folks out there to know these monies are going to be spent wisely, efficiently, and they're going to go into the neighborhoods. And, you know, I have confidence in all of us that we're going to do the right thing. And starting tonight, what we're approving here are some huge proposals. So I just wanted to say that, but saying that the PR firm, they're not just like a firm that is going to tell us or anything how to use the money. The people of Troy are going to tell us. The advisory committees that are going to be comprised for each of the subjects, helping neighborhoods, affordable housing, and things that are outlined in the monies that are supposed to, the projects for the American Rescue. So saying that they're going to build a website, they're going to build consensus, they're going to allow us to get feedback from folks. You know, remember, our folks are working full time, and now we have $45 million, and we need to ensure that we're getting everybody's input on this. So I just wanted to say a couple things, because this is really, really important. It's going to be one of the biggest projects, you know, during our term. So we have to make sure it's done right. So I just wanted to say that and prefacing it. And Council Member Steele, and then I'll open it up to council members. And Andy and Monica, I know you want to talk about the projects. And Council Member Steele.
Thank you. I will obviously have to recuse myself from this per the Ethics Commission and my dual role with the Housing Authority. But before that, I certainly want to commend this recommendation. It's very exciting, the very first one out of the box, to be supporting affordable housing. And not only affordable housing, but affordable housing on the river and in a mixed use setting. I can't tell you, it's like a dream come true for the Housing Authority. We have wanted to take down Taylor 1 and 2 for so long, and it's just been not feasible. So this is just, I can't tell you how exciting this is, and it's going to kick off an extension of the waterfront development that I hope I'll be around to be a part of. But I want to commend those who came up with this decision, and just as excited as I am about that, believe it or not, I think the investment in our technology and our account, I mean, we so desperately need that. And I am so thrilled. And I'm not a techie, but even I know we need that kind of help. So thank you to all. And I just look forward to the process. And I think that the PR form will help inform the residents of that process. And that's very critical in the whole decision making. So thank you all.
Thank you, Council Member Steele. Ditto. I'll open it up to council members, and then Monica and Andy. Anyone else? Questions? Yes, Council Member Cummings.
Just wondering if we could get an update on what this means for the Financial Restructuring Board deal. Does this open up opportunity to come back to them around the technology stuff, or does this replace that?
Good question. Yeah, the FRB was supposed to appropriate money, you're right, for the timekeeping. So maybe Andy either has the answer or could get back to us. Good question. Other council members?
Council President?
Yeah, Council Member Zaluski.
Yeah, so as someone else who's serving on the advisory group, I think I understand. I've gotten some feedback from people saying, you know, how is the group already making decisions? Are they're getting nervous? Aren't you going to solicit input, you know, from the community? And I can continue to assure, you know, everyone that reaches out that that yes, the community, as the council president said, the community is going to play a critical role in determining how and where funds are spent. This is, I guess I would call this low hanging fruit, even though it's actually, these are some substantial projects that have been, you know, low hanging for a long time. And they require funding that, you know, for example, the THA just, you know, couldn't come up with themselves. This is why we're doing this. It's a wonderful partnership. And these are projects that absolutely have to move forward. So to, you know, to people that are concerned about, you know, where we're going with everything and what kind of input the community will have, I'll say, you know, absolutely, we're going to be soliciting input and listening. And to use Rick Morrissey's word of the day, this whole plan is in code right now. So we're early stages.
That definitely was a great word.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Further discussion?
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
I just want to, when the deputy mayor and Andy may address when they're talking, if they could just touch on, can you how are you going to be setting up the committees? Because I've had a few people reach out to me that they want to be on the committees. So how are you going to go about setting up the committees, and how are you going to go about who will be on the committees is the first part of my question. The second question was, I did wanted to ask, and Councilman Cummings had said it, as far as look at the time clocks. I mean, this is something that the city has been asking, or we've been asking in my first time on the council, going way back, and touching on the base on how the time clock is gonna work and so forth with all the departments and so forth. And then my last part of my question is, some of this funding is going to be used for demolitions. How are we going to pick out which buildings are going to be used first to take down? Not the Taylors, I know that's already in there, but as far as the third part of this. So, and I'm excited to see this move forward, and I'm also looking forward to continuing doing this, and hopefully I'll be on the council continuing, as Council Steele said, to make some more moving forward of our city. So thank you.
Awesome. Good questions. Councilmember Ash McPherson, other council members? All right, we'll let Andy and or Monica, I don't know who wants to go first. Monica, why don't you go first, and then Andy will come in with the technical accounting and timekeeping and all that. Thanks.
Actually, I was going to have Andy do the technical aspect first, and then we'll go into the other piece. So Andy, if you want to cover the accounting and timekeeping and the technology infrastructure, and then I'll jump in on the rest of those.
In regards to the FRB, I mean, that's something that certainly can be looked at about what happens going forward in the future. It's been discussed for years. There is language in the FRB agreement that requires shared services. This does not require, and this is not for or against shared services. This does not have a contingency of you have to have shared services on it. We need new, I've been saying it for 2-3 years. We need a new accounting system. We need a timekeeping system. Payroll has to stop being done on paper. This allows us to move away from that. In regards to, we've been working probably for almost 2 months now on an RFP to go out for the accounting system. I would expect the budget's going to take a priority here for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll get back to that and finishing the RFP out and getting it out for the accounting system. I know other local governments that have switched accounting systems. It takes up to 24 months to complete that transition. It is not something that happens. It is a very long process. In regards to timekeeping, under the American Rescue Plan Act, we've received guidance that you are able to procure off of state contract or other procurement methods. So we will look to see if there are payroll companies on state contract that can provide the services that we need. If that's viable option, we will certainly pursue that, because that will speed up that process, and it's a legitimate procurement vehicle. If that is not available, then it will be part of the RFP. So they may end up being split. I know the council president brought up the reporting to the Treasury Department that there was an interim report due August 31st that was filed. The city had not allocated any funding. That was as of July 31st. So we filed that as all zeros. It was filed on time with the Treasury Department. And the last thing I wanted to touch on tonight is the money for technology infrastructure. Quinn Mahoney has brought to Monica and I a substantial list of upgrades that are needed to the city's infrastructure for technology, both to update it and to provide better security. That is an allowable use under the American Rescue Plan Act. So it sets up funding available for Quinn to upgrade what he sees needs to be done first, and gives him money to get done what he needs to get done.
Awesome.
Okay.
Monica?
Yep, sure. So in regards to the demolitions, a big component of the ARPA money is, neighborhoods, healthy neighborhoods, distressed and blighted, disproportionate communities as well too. And then obviously the affordable housing piece. When we found out that Penrose was not successful last year in securing the 9% tax credit and the impact to their budget and the potential delay of that project, we reached out to Deb just to see where they were and what the strategy was. And they were actually looking for demolition money at that point in time. We knew that was an allowable use. So Andy and I approached Deb and said, hey, we might have an idea for you to push forward a project to build some infrastructure, but this project as a gateway to our city, also an affordable housing, and it's a true mixed use, which is the most important component of this. It is not just one low income, it's not just high income, it is not just housing, it's a true diverse use. It updates a severely needed program. It'll take and relocate 3 and 4 to 1 and 2. This is a huge win for Sage, for anybody who lives within the city of Troy, as the Congress Street entrance to the city is a huge entrance for us. So it touches on multiple facets of the funding, allowable funding uses of this. So Andy and I are very cognizant of that when we do put forward recommendations to the advisory committee, that we make sure that a lot of these uses have multiple facets that tie into different funding areas of the plan, just to secure the knowledge that it's not too shoehorned into a particular area or not. So the overlap is prominent, and it also goes into that healthy neighborhoods component. Going back to the demolitions, the general demolitions, we're really excited to have that project go off, by the way. So it's a really big thing. Troy Housing Authority is an agency partner of the city, and I think we need to make sure to remember that. The Troy Housing Authority competes with all of the private developers for tax credits. Sometimes they get bumped because a private developer applies for those tax credits as well too. So as a city that has a really strong partner in their housing authority, we need to be mindful of that when we're promoting projects and or strategizing and prioritizing projects, because it's just important to have Troy Housing Authority successful as it is for anybody else within the city. So the other demolitions, so this emergency demolition money actually replenishes, for lack of a better word, our building demolition line. So when we have emergency demolitions throughout the city or demolitions throughout the city, this funding can be utilized. So if there's a building that needs to come down, say up in Lansingburg, or there's a couple right now that we're working with, that those might be able to be funded out of this. The challenge with this line is that it's taken a couple hits over the past several years, but this will also be the first opportunity for us to cash. Because keep in mind, over the past several years, we've bonded for demolition. So this will actually be able to start us off with a cash basis, and hopefully then be able to continue to fund that through cash basis rather than having to bond for demolitions in the future. Andy, did I get everything on that one? Okay.
Monica, Councilmember Cummings has a quick question, I think, on that.
Just to follow up on that, is it a, well, essentially it's creating a project fund that'll last until it's spent, or it's a budget line that's supposed to be spent within a year or whatever? And then follow up, how long do you think, how long do you anticipate this initial cash infusion to last?
The $1 million it will be within the capital projects fund, so it will transcend fiscal years, and it does not have it's there as long, I mean, that project's been in existence since I think at least 2013 or 14. We just keep replenishing the money. So it'll live past 2021. And will be there as long as there's funding available.
And if I remember correctly, we've been putting sort of in the couple $100,000 range into it in recent years.
Yeah.
So this is a significant increase in that. And it sounds like we have some backlog of demolitions that this will help get through. But do you anticipate it'll last beyond the initial backlog that you see?
So keep in mind when we have a backlog, I mean, you just heard Sharon say how many properties we own, right? So a lot of those are emergency demolitions might be something that we have, like if there's a fire or if there's a situation like that. And typically we try to work with Corporation Counsel to tag that facility, to put a lien essentially on that property so that we can get the funding back or file a claim with the insurance company. But that takes time, right? So we still have to cycle through that, and then that replenishment can come from later on. But then there's also circumstances like other challenges, you know what I mean? So we just, sometimes you have to chase it down a little bit harder.
Okay. So this isn't rolling out like a major new strategy for demolishing a bunch of buildings, blighted buildings. It's within our existing strategy.
So there's another project, there's a project demolitions that when we put together some of those that North Central community plan that we just saw a couple weeks ago, there might be some projects that we work on collectively with groups in various areas of the city that might be something that we can contribute to that program. So those are the things that we want to work out. Those are the things, and you just dovetailed nicely into the committee work. So as we go into committee structure and we look at workforce, look at housing options, we look at workforce development, we look at education, we look at youth programming and parks and all of these other things that we're doing. So the way we're going to build this committee structure is we say it's workforce housing, right? So say it's affordable housing. So we have affordable housing partners. You just heard from a lot of them that we're already kind of working with. That working group that we were doing just for that small area will expand out. I've already reached out to Christine Nealon. What I would like to do is make sure that we have representation from the neighborhoods, obviously, because these are the people that have to live next door. So make sure that we reach out. I did say in my email to all of you that I would be reaching out to you for suggestions. There are some council districts that don't have as much representation in public meetings as we all expect or want to see. So there might be some that we reach out to make sure that we get a good representation from certain areas, not to target those areas, but just because they sometimes aren't in the normal public settings. And then the other piece of that too is we're doing, for example, workforce development. Right now, we're working with that Department of Labor grant that the city won, or the city was given back about a month ago for $700,000 for the anti-gun violence. So that's done through the Capital Region Workforce Development Initiative through Brian Williams. Everybody knows Brian. So we have a core group there. That's a nice core group to start working and building a committee off of. And then we invite other people to join that committee. There's already some structure there. They're already on that mission. So there's some stuff that we all know that's already in existence that can be expanded. There's new groups that can form. I will tell you, when we start looking at parks and that kind of infrastructure, that will most likely be representation from every voter district and or neighborhood. Once you get into that, you get into some pretty big committee numbers, but we want to extend that out, and that'll be out to you guys to help drive some interest in that as well too. Some stuff we might just solicit, you know what I mean? And that's what we're going to work with the marketing firm to do as well too. What's the best way for outreach? How do we survey? Because even though we get input from community members as a part of a committee, we need to get the greater community input, and we can do that through surveying, we can do that through focus groups, we can do that through those kinds of things. So the marketing RFP that will be ahead of you in a couple weeks, or the marketing contract, they've been engaged to do all that work. Kim, did I answer your question?
The nod.
So
Okay.
it's a really amazing opportunity, but it is a one shot. So it's a really great opportunity to do some amazing improvements to the city and really get the investment out into the neighborhoods, and into, you know, into those things that for decades we've been saying, how do we fund this? How do we fund this? And now we have opportunities to fund it. So I think it's a really good thing. I think we can do some really good work for everybody in the city.
It's a big deal. All right. Further questions, discussion, stay tuned. And, you know, I just want to assure people out there, this is going to be everyone working together, groups, neighborhood groups, organizations, residents, taxpayers, businesses, you name it. It's going to be a great partnership. All right.
President,
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
I just wanted to follow up briefly on the FRB thing. Thank you, Andy, for the details on that. I was just wondering if it might make any sense, or if you're already doing this within your RFP, at least to structure that such that when we're buying it, we're also set up to be the hub for a shared service, if that eventually makes sense. And then if we do that and eventually can create a shared service agreement through that, does the FRB fund, the FRB fund wasn't necessarily tied to the actual purchase of the software. It was just, if we do this thing, they'll give us the money for whatever, right?
So it was tied to doing a shared service component with an entity in order to share the service of technology, so that it meant to share up, but I think it would be allowable to share down. And that's how I would probably claim it. And it's no secret, we tried to work with the county. You know, we had transition at that point in time. They were doing a big assessment, and that's completely fine. The challenge is that it has to be a really true shared service. It can't just be that they house a server in a closet for us or something like that. It has to pass the sniff test. So I think that's part of the challenge of investing. If all we do is build another server room in another entity, that's not necessarily a shared service. And that's essentially what was going to happen. So trying to make sure that we have the ability eventually. And to be honest with you, the county does different work than the city and the municipality does. So it's easier for us to share with other localities and other municipal areas that do more what we do versus what maybe the county does.
Okay, yeah, I think we all agree on the framework there. Just, you know, make sure that it sounds like you are thinking about that as you format the RFPs, but I definitely also agree that it's important to move forward with it.
We just need a few more staff.
Okay. Any further questions, discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Ordinance 80 passes 7-0. Ordinance 81. Ordinance.
President, make sure you.
I'm sorry. I apologize. 601. Thank you, Councilmember Steele. Such a long discussion. Yours was like a year ago. I'm sorry. 601. Councilmember Steele recuses. Ordinance 81. Ordinance amending the 2021 general fund budget to accept funds from the United States Department of Homeland Security for an assistance to firefighters grant. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully, discussion. I just want to say kudos to Chief McMahon and his team. They really have been aggressive with accomplishing some grant funding. So is the TPD. Further discussion, questions? All in favor? Yes, Councilmember Ash
Sorry,
McPherson.
Council President, I have a question.
That's
So I
okay.
just want, and I hate to bring this back up again, because this is gonna do the circle around to the 115,000 that came from the fire department, was put in the contingency account and being used for Barker Park. But now we're gonna take 20,000 from the contingency account to go back to the 10% that we have to pay. Is that part of the 115,000, or is this an additional 20,000? Not an additional, but it's a separate 20,000.
It's a separate 20,000.
So is it kind of,
It's the timing of when transfers occur. I mean, how transfers have been done in 2021 is consistent with any other year. It's
no, I
it's
get
a matter of timing.
I get that, but it was like the 115,000 was taken from the fire department. They gave it back to the contingency account, and now they don't need that money. But now we need 20,000 to go back. That's what I'm just trying to say.
And if they have been awarded the grant last month,
Yeah.
the money that's coming from the contingency in this ordinance would have come from the vehicles. It's a timing. It's when things occur.
Okay. Okay. Just asking.
Good question. Good question. Further questions, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 81 carries 7-0. Ordinance A2, ordinance amending the 2021 general fund budget to accept funds from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the purpose of gun-involved violence elimination, also known as GIVE. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance A2 carries 7-0. Ordinance A3, ordinance amending the 2021 general fund budget to accept funds from Rensselaer County for the purpose of providing firefighting services. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance 82, or I apologize, A3 carries 7-0. Ordinance A4, ordinance adopting the City of Troy revenue recognition policy. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Andy, want to take it away real quick?
Reese, this is in conformity with governmental GASB number 33 as to how we recognize revenues. We've never had it in a document, but it's how we've been doing it for years. So it's just putting it on paper and having the city council adopt it formally.
Any questions, discussion?
Council President?
Yes, Councilmember Zaluski.
Andy, I didn't read through the details of this. Is there just like the briefest summary you can, I mean, I know we're already doing it, but like what's the what's the overview of what we're doing?
If a revenue is from a grant source that directly ties to an expenditure, it is recognized to match the period in which the expenditure occurs. That's called an exchange transaction. Then for any other type of revenue, which is called a non-exchange transaction, then this relates primarily to year end. It must be available and measurable, and it must be meet both of those criteria within 60 days of year end in order for it to be recognized in the prior fiscal year. Otherwise, it is not. It is a deferred revenue item.
Okay. And this is per GASB 33.
Per GASB 33, and what we've been is how the city's been handling revenue recognition. I've been here since 2013, and we've been doing it at least since then.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good. Further questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance A4 carries 7-0. Ordinance A5, ordinance amending the 2021 general fund budget and garbage fund budget. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion, Andy, I believe, hold on one sec. I had a question on one transfer, I noticed vital statistics, we're increasing the consultant services. Can you go into that one?
Yeah, so there was a backlog of work for 2 years due to the pandemic. So it was catch-up work that was needed in 2021. And there was also, as the council's aware from approving it, a change in the retention guidelines, which impacted those services that were provided to the city.
Mhm.
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
I think that contract, if I remember correctly, is one that is sort of an as needed basis. They charge us when they do stuff. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So I assume they charged us less last year. Is this stuff they didn't do last year, and we're basically, it's essentially moving it to this
Correct.
fiscal year?
Correct. It was a bunch of catch-up work because of the pandemic in 2020.
Interesting.
Yeah. Andy, also, I did notice the employee in the garbage fund. Were we short an employee? Did we not need that employee?
There have been vacancies. So this transfer throughout recognizes salary savings from various vacant positions throughout the fiscal year. This is I usually bring this transfer forward in October, November, but we calculated it now and grabbed the savings to provide funding for other necessary lines. So it wasn't a specific employee, it's just various positions. The employees leaving and then time lags until positions get filled. It's created by a variety of items throughout the fiscal year.
Yeah, I mean, it was substantial, $120.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Cummings.
Andy, can you just talk a little bit about how you calculate the increase in sales tax? I assume we're haven't already made that much. This is the
so we have now received 2 quarters of sales tax revenue for 2020. So I take that and then I look at what the prior years have been and justify it to make sure I'm comfortable with the number, because we've discussed it for years. It's incredibly volatile, but the trend justifies this increase.
Okay, I like it. I like you budgeting on trends. That's nice. And you using it to pay down the pension obligation. How much of is this everything we deferred last year of the pension?
The pension deferral has been removed from the 2021 budget. This pays off another previously deferred pension loan. I believe this one is from 2014's budget, 2014's fiscal year. This is the deferral that has the highest interest rate. It is in excess of 3.66%. So we will be prepaying that one as well. So we've already paid off the 2 that were previously approved by the council, and this would pay off a 3rd previously deferred pension loan.
Is that, I think there were a couple more. How many more?
There are several more. Trying to balance the payout. There's some of them have very substantial payoff amounts, just that quite simply cannot be folded into this year's budget. So it's picking the ones that create the most savings to the city budgetarily, and along with highest interest rate, and then how much it costs to pay them off.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Andy. Further questions, discussion? Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 85 carries 7-0. Ordinance 86, ordinance amending the 2021 general fund budget to appropriate additional funding from the New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee for the Child Passenger Safety Program. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
Make a motion?
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance A6 carries 7-0. Ordinance A7, ordinance authorizing acceptance upon conditions of a deed for lands to be dedicated to the city of Troy for highway purposes and a utility easement. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. I don't think Steve's, Aaron, do you want to take this one real quick?
Yes, if there are any questions, I can answer them, or I can just give you guys a brief overview of the proposal.
Brief overview would be great.
Sure.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
this is a subdivision that's been in and out of planning over the years. They recently were able to acquire a portion of land that made the subdivision buildable. And it was approved by the Planning Commission, I believe, last year or 2 years ago, and the approval was extended. The lots have been filed with the county, so the lots exist currently, but the project has yet to be built. So those are the conditions of the dedication will be the council vote this evening, DPU acceptance of the utilities that are proposed. It's a very small water line extension, very small sewer line extension, and then acceptance of the roadway from DPW, my office.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Thank you. Aaron, this ordinance is just making it clear for DPW or that they're responsible for maintaining these streets?
Correct. Once the street has been built and accepted by all departments, that's correct. The city will now own the street and the infrastructure and be responsible for the maintenance of those appurtenances in perpetuity.
Was this land eminent domain?
No, this is privately owned.
Okay.
This was the owner of the land has an interest in giving this land and the utilities to the city because they don't want to maintain them. Prevents the need for an HOA or some similar mechanism to perform the maintenance on these structures.
So this.
Council member, if I could jump in for a second.
Sure, Rick.
A dedication is essentially a gift of land. It's what a developer wants us to take. It is not valid until we accept it.
Okay. So they're no longer, they're saying you can have this land. We're not going to have any responsibility to it all. It's all yours.
We've put responsibilities into the acceptance, into the deed and the ordinance.
But the owner, they'll have no say in the property anymore. It'll be all city.
It'll be just like any other city street once
Okay.
once it's finally accepted.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
So Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
I guess I'm just a little confused. So we accept the street and then we take responsibility for maintaining it and taking care of it, which becomes an expense to the city. And the property owner says, here you go, I'm going to give you your street.
You've got 14 houses paying taxes on that street.
Well, wouldn't they pay taxes anyways?
Well, there might not be a street there. I don't know.
I think a guy wants to build 14 houses and he wants to take over the expense. Shouldn't we get some sort of fee for taking care of his property that he wants to give us, the street? Tell him to give us the houses.
It becomes a public way. I mean, Aaron can speak to this, but I don't think I think it's an easy plow, and he's going to build all the utilities to our specifications. It kind of makes sense to make it a public way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that there are certainly subdivisions that could be proposed within the city where I wouldn't recommend that the council entertain dedication of a roadway. This would not be one of them. It's about 50 feet of roadway. It's essentially mostly just a cul-de-sac off of Project Road. And in terms of the bang for the buck, if you will, 14 lots on maybe 100 feet of road, it's a pretty good deal, tax-wise.
Council President?
Not that I would ever fight this.
Councilmember Gully
Excuse me.
still has the floor. Go ahead,
Excuse
Councilmember
me,
Gully.
Councilman Cummings. Not that I would ever fight this, but I'm just wondering, if we didn't accept it, wouldn't he build 14 houses anyways? And then they would have to form an HOA and have a, some sort of fee that they would pay to have that road taken care of.
I believe that would be the step forward for the developer in that case, yes.
Okay, Councilmember Cummings?
Has any site investigation been done? Is there any liability to the city for, if there's a historic anything, it's adjacent to the cemetery there? I feel like there was a site up there somewhere where there was a rumor that there had been a orphanage burial ground. I don't know if it was this site or not, but has any investigation into that been done? And if it has or hasn't, is there any liability to the city in taking it now before that investigation is done?
I'd have to defer any questions of liability to Corporation Counsel, but the investigations that were performed on the site were all of those required for permitting. The site did go through site plan review. I can't say off the top of my head if it was subject to a stormwater permit and therefore the SHPO archaeology process, but I believe it may have been.
As part of the acceptance, the owner has to provide a title insurance policy, which will show us the chain of title in the property and guarantee our title to those lands. I don't know. I don't know that we have any protection against a contingency where by somehow it's discovered that there's a burial ground. So.
Would that scare you from a liability standpoint at all? If it, I mean, would we have responsibility to do something about it if it was, or would that be the developer's responsibility?
Well, it would only be our responsibility. The roadway would only be our responsibility after it's constructed. So in the event that during construction, they were to encounter something like that, it would not be the city's responsibility. We would only accept the road after it's completely built. At that point, if there was anything under the surface, as long as we're not disturbing it, I wouldn't think there would be a liability there.
I think that's a wonderful legal argument, Aaron.
Great. Thank you.
Council President?
Hold on, Councilmember Cummings, you're good?
Yeah, I guess I'll just encourage Aaron to, I guess if you could check in on whether that SHPO has already been done, and if not, if there's any opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Councilman Gully got me thinking of something else when he was asking those questions. Other than the 14 houses that are looking to be built and the taxes from the 14 houses, what is the benefit to us accepting this and taking responsibility of the road?
None. There would be no other benefit to the city that I can think of.
So
The benefit to the city is solely the 14 taxable lots, as far as I can see it.
So we would be taking on maintaining the road, a cost to the taxpayers when he has to build it himself anyways and manage it?
Well, again, the idea would be that without the city accepting the road, the applicant's position would be maybe the project doesn't work. I'm sure that would be their position. I can't speak for them. So.
Right.
I mean, if I might say, I understand the concern, but I think most of us live on public streets, which at one time were someone else's private land. They either got to the city by a lot of them got to the city by dedication over the years. It seems to me we have a lot of problems right now up at Diamond Ridge because whenever some of those roads were dedicated, it wasn't done properly. We have our sewer lines and our water lines running through those roads, but we don't have clear access to them. Some of the roads are city plowed, some of the roads are not city plowed. This one, I think, is an easier one. It's accessible. There's going to be a roundabout at the end. And the people there are going to be citizens of Troy. I think they may want a public road there.
Council President.
Okay, Councilmember Gully. Councilmember Ash McPherson, you all good?
Yeah, I guess I don't see the benefit to us of the road, but I'm okay for it now.
Okay, Councilmember Gully.
Well, two questions would come to mind if we're going to take over a road. Have we asked the developer what type of public amenity they might be able to produce for the people of Troy to take the acceptance and daily care of that road for those 14 houses? And two, is there any option for an indemnification or release of responsibility in case there are any problems in the future based on the way the road was built by an outside contractor and not looked over by whoever they would look over for us? But I'm just saying, is there any way to create some sort of indemnification in that agreement so that it keeps the city a little clearer? And I guess that was my two questions. No sense repeating them.
Well, the cost of inspecting the systems installed will be borne by the applicant. So we would have eyes on all of that as it's built. I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with any agreement where a developer would warranty that construction. That may be something that's possible to structure. Usually it's the inspection that we're able to do as it's being built that is our peace of mind, if you will.
Anything for a little public amenity, maybe a little park there for the kids in those 14 houses, or something that they're gonna give back for that forever care of that cul-de-sac?
There's a park next door.
It's at Carroll Hill.
Well, okay, maybe not a park. Maybe somebody could think of something else when they negotiate these deals.
Council President.
Sure, Deputy Mayor.
So just to be cognizant of this, Red Rock Road, that was a private that got turned to public. High Point, Emerald Greens. It's just part of what happens when a subdevelopment goes in, when a development site goes in. And it is, listen, I'm not a fan of it. Back when this started, back when I was doing economic development for the city, I'm not a fan of this site being developed. I think it's very dense. I think the access point is a little awkward. It's been a long-term project, but it is something that has been approved. Again, going back to what Corporation Council said about access, the last thing we want to do is 15 years from now, have the city not fully understand what its responsibility is versus what the HOA's responsibility is, and a catastrophe happen, and then we're liable. So the ease of purposes for this, as far as just maintenance and routine care, is for it to become part of the city's network, because then it can be the fire hydrants get flushed and the water systems get checked and the sewer systems get checked and the road gets paved. And then that way, 10, 15 years down the road, we have clean documents that state that whose responsibility it is, because that's the challenge we're having right now up at High Point.
And if I could jump in, I think what I'm hearing now is not so much, I think everyone wants, because I'm very involved with the High Point issue. I have been communicating with the Homeowners Association, the mayor, and Chris Whelan. But saying that, I think more the council is concerned about the terms of the agreement, not so much whose responsibility is what. Am I getting that right, council? I mean, we all want, obviously 10, 20, 30 years to know the responsibilities. I think it's the terms of those responsibilities. So, I mean, anyway.
Council President?
Yeah, Councilmember Zaluski.
Yeah, so I think Monica covered what I was going to say, but this is pretty standard procedure. We're not doing anything here that's out of the ordinary. Aaron, I do have a question though. The legislation does mention sewers, catch basin, et cetera. I'm assuming you've reviewed this in terms of its proximity to the Wine and Skill Creek, and there's no concerns there, or is there anything that needs to happen to protect the creek?
No, I don't believe any of this discharges off the back of the slope there. It all goes out toward Project Road, ties into the systems that we have out there.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're all in favor? Some people I heard, okay. 7-0. 87. Resolution 68, resolution authorizing the city to waive the apprenticeship requirement for construction bids and contracts related to the construction of improvements to the Fair Park Golf Course. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. I did want to jump in on this one. I did give a heads up to the union folks. It is specifically for the phase 1 of the golf course improvements, and that's because the bids or the proposals went out, the bid went out. They received no bids, correct, Monica?
Correct, they received no bids. And
Okay,
this is for the construction work at the golf course, not just necessarily phase 1, because all of it's going to be golf course specific anyway.
okay. A quick question, you'll re-solicit it, I take it, and
As soon as you approve, then we'll put the bid back out.
okay. And very quickly, do you guys use for the bids, when I spoke to the union, he did ask, are we using NECA, NECA? I'm not sure what that is, but it's a bidder list, I guess. Do you know what lists that you guys use?
All bids get solicited right now in the Troy Record, Contract Reporter, and BidNet.
Okay. I'll check into that also. And cool. Any questions on this discussion?
Yeah, Council President.
Yes, Council Members Zaluski.
So first of all, I want to thank the administration for respecting the apprenticeship resolution. When we passed this, I think back when I was during my first tenure on the council, this was really, really important to us. It's obviously it's a way to get mostly young people involved in trades and making sure that when we have these projects going forward in the city that the companies that we're doing business with are offering these apprenticeships. It was very important to our local unions. They came and spoke on this back when we first passed it. So I very much appreciate the fact that, number one, you respect this and you're coming to the council to talk about this. And as much as I don't like granting waivers to resolutions that we support, this is our only way to move forward on the project. So I will support this, but I do appreciate the fact that this is in front of us. There might be other administrations that might have completely forgotten about the resolution and just solicited bids from anyone. So it's excellent that this is in front of us and that we take this seriously.
Well, if I could jump in, the council repassed a new resolution, Council Member Zaluski, a little over, oh my gosh, okay, 2 years right about now, just to refine it. The building trades and the IBW and folks had come to the council and we worked very closely with them. So saying that, you built the foundation, we took it to another level. And I must disclose, this is near and dear to my heart, because my husband actually went through the IBW apprenticeship program and is a product 30 years later. So it is a great program. It's super important. We had, I want to say, about 70 folks come down raving about the apprenticeship program when it was passed a couple years ago. And it's just a hugely successful program. I know that there's kinks that have to be worked out implementing the program, but saying that it's super successful and we must do everything humanly possible to abide by it. So thank you. All right. Further questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution 68 carries 7-0. Resolution 69, resolution of Troy City Council authorizing a public hearing for changing traffic direction Rensselaer Street between 6th Ave and River Street. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Member Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Are there any questions, discussion? And Aaron gave a few council members a heads up on this. It's in Councilmember Ash McPherson's district. So I really want to thank you for that heads up, Aaron. Councilmember Ash McPherson, you haven't heard any negative feedback on this, correct?
No, Council President, I walked down 6th Ave down in J, Aaron, a couple of days after you and I had been over there walking around. And I talked to several of the neighbors over there. Some of them were concerned about additional traffic going both ways now and the parking and so forth. And I explained to them that there's only be parking on one side. Am I correct on that? On the right-hand side going up?
On the, as you're going up the hill on the left-hand side.
The left-hand side, sorry. So that those cars would be parking going down. And I assured them that, you know, you had done all the engineering and looking through this to see the amount of traffic. And I said, it really shouldn't be that much more than normal of the one-way going. I said, how many people really are coming off that way as it is? So everybody seemed to be okay with it at this time.
Council President?
Yes, Monica.
I actually have a question for Aaron since he's right here. So is this traffic change going to happen now, or will it be when the project's complete?
This would be when the project is complete. All the signage has to be in place, bagged, ready to go. We would do a traffic advisory ahead of time, and yeah, it would be a planned opening.
Okay.
And Aaron, do we have the public hearing scheduled? I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't have a date for that. I don't know if Rick had assigned a date.
It's blank on the resolution. You're gonna need to amend it to put the dates in.
Yep. Okay, so you know what we can do is, you know, if you could schedule it before the regular meeting, we can amend the resolution. Okay.
Yes.
Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Aaron, just a quick question. It's still going to be a three-way stop sign, right? Or two-way stop sign going, because you're only going to still be going one way north.
Are you talking about the stop at?
Going up Rensselaer.
Yes, you would have to, yes, there would be a stop sign there.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution 69 carries 7-0. Resolution 70, resolution of Troy City Council authorizing a public hearing for changing traffic direction on Washington Street between 5th Ave and River Street. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Again.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion, questions. This is another that we'll have to amend. The public hearing is not scheduled yet. However, more importantly, do council members have any questions?
Yeah, Council President.
Yes, Council Member Zalusky.
Aaron, can you just give me some of the motivation for this change, please?
The motivation for this was basically public outreach. My office was called by several residents. I was asked to take a look at making the street a one-way. Basically, the parking on both sides of the street provides a very narrow traveled way. It's approximately 16 feet, and that's handling two-way traffic, which is substandard given modern roadway design standards. So the direction that we selected was based on Liberty and Division to the north. I decided to have Washington go towards River Street to complement the directions of Liberty and Division.
Yeah.
Just kind of extend that one way, alternating one way further south.
Okay, so basically, yeah, Division is westbound, Liberty is eastbound, so then we'll just go back to westbound for Washington.
Correct.
Seems reasonable.
Yes. Also, the winter condition was another complaint of the residents. When we do have snowfalls, snowbanks accumulate at the sides of the road, it narrows it even further. And a lot of positive feedback after people saw this on the agenda this evening.
Yeah. Now, there was something in the legislation here discussing, I think it was a data set between second and third, but this proposal is to change it all the way from Fifth to River.
Oh, correct. Yes. The data that we collected between second and third was just to get background data of speeds on the roadway.
Okay.
People aren't speeding on Washington Street.
Yeah,
In case anyone was wondering.
Yeah, you're trying to navigate, you're not speeding.
Right.
All right, thanks, Aaron.
Council President,
Yep, Council Member Steele.
I can speak from personal experience. My youngest son going east on Washington, approaching Fifth, snowbank, visibility 0, gets smashed by a car. So I think it's a great move. It's a lot easier going downhill than uphill and so forth and so on. So thanks, Aaron, for listening to people's concerns.
Want to get into Park and 15th? No, I'm kidding. Further discussions, questions? That's for another day, Aaron.
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution 70 carries 7-0. Resolution 71, resolution authorizing and ratifying the memorandum of agreement by and between the City of Troy and the Command Officers Association of Troy, also known as COAT, United Public Service Employees Union, Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
Make a motion?
Motion, Council Member Zalusky. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Council Member Ash McPherson. My son was just yelling banana on. He likes the word banana. Discussion. I did have a couple questions, but if you want to give an overview first for the council, that's fine. Then I can ask my questions. Monica or Andy? Or Rick?
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
That's okay. No, I didn't know if the administration wanted to give an overview. If the council doesn't want it, that's fine. I thought a quick overview. I do have a few questions. If you don't want, I mean, I'm sure the council would appreciate a quick overview, highlights.
I don't know. I guess I could answer your questions. I'm not really prepared
Okay.
for an overview.
I was just curious. I did notice that the contract goes through.
I apologize.
Okay. Yeah, it's the COAT contract. I noticed the contract goes through 2022. PBAs is 2023. Is there a reason this didn't go through 2023?
There wasn't a particular reason that I recall, except that that's just what we ended up agreeing to.
Okay. Also, what fund will the retro come out of? I don't know if Andy or Monica know that piece of it.
I think
Come out of
Andy knows the answer
contingency.
to that.
It'll come out of the contingency.
Out of contingency, okay. And, oh yeah, were there any former captains that have either retired or maybe been promoted that are getting the retro?
Well, Captain Barker has been promoted. I don't really know what, I think he might be eligible for some of the retro. And I'm not sure about anyone else though, really.
Okay, you could get back to me on that one. I
Okay.
don't need to know at this second. I was just curious, but overall, I think, you know, kudos to getting this contract ratified, you know, obviously put before us for the council to put the final touches, but saying that congratulations and good work. Looks like, you know, a very good mutual contract between the city and our code. So
It took a little while, but it's good.
good. Does the council have questions?
Council President?
Yes, Council Member Cummings.
I don't have it in front of me, but my sense is that these are the same numbers that the PBA got, the 2, 3, 4. Is that correct?
They're very similar.
Okay. And the health insurance are also matching with the PBA?
Yes, and actually the retirement incentive for the health insurance, the 20% with the 10% upon retirement is something that we're actually standardizing across the contracts. The UFA just had that obviously, and we're looking to do that throughout all of them and become a city benefit rather than specific to a union.
Great. Is there anything you can say about this accelerated leave thing? Is that just a something you had to put in to get the contract, or is that, what's the logic behind that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
The accelerated.
Just wondering, yeah, speak to this accelerated leave clause for a couple captains.
Oh, that was because the change in, I think it was the change in their health insurance benefit. They went to the, by agreeing to the 10%, that was just for those 4 captains, one of whom has already been promoted, so he actually doesn't get that benefit now.
Okay, so it's essentially a buyout of their, you know, in order to change the one thing in their existing contract.
It was
You need
just
to-
their peculiar interest.
This is
The
what they-
the other captains don't pay anything for their health insurance.
Okay. Gotcha. Interesting.
So they went from 15 to 20 for regular, for while they're in service.
Okay.
And that was kind of something to reward them for agreeing.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Further questions, discussion,
Well,
comments?
Sorry, I do have one more question about the vacation leave. So is it like most vacation leaves in that is this leave that they can cash in at the end of the year? Or leave that they have to take as vacation time? I know it varies.
I think they can carry over a certain amount. And I believe it is payable out at the end of their employment. But I'm not sure if it's unlimited. They might have to, they might reach a top, they might fill their banks at some point. I don't actually know the answers completely to those questions.
Okay, so they can pay it out at the end of their employment. Can they pay it out at any random other time that they want to? I seem to recall.
I don't
That
believe we have a vacation buyback agreement with them.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Good. Further questions, discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution 71 carries 7-0. Resolution 72, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Color City Auctions Realty and Management, Inc. for auctioneer services. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Council Members Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Council Member Gully. Questions, discussion, comments? Councilmember Cummings, yes.
I was wondering whether this contract can also be used. They've repeatedly made proposals to the city about some participation in our proposal sale process, even just like helping advertise it, get the word out to their people. Have you met with them in a while about that? Was that part of this discussion at all?
The RFP was for the surplus property. There was not consideration for foreclosed property sales. No.
Okay, so this doesn't and can't include that. That'll have to be a separate RFP.
I think too, the city code, I would defer to Rick, or the deputy mayor, but I think that's the city code outlines how foreclosed properties are to be disposed of.
Yeah.
So I think in order, you'd have to change if that's the avenue the city was going to go, the code would certainly have to be amended.
I'm certainly not proposing that we change our proposal sale process. And I honestly, I don't know all the details. I just know that they have reached out to me in the past saying that they had a proposal at one point to, continue with that proposal sale process, but also get it out through their lists and, take pictures of everything and have the listing on their website in a way that they've found in other communities, generates a lot of extra bids. Now, we don't have any properties to sell, so I guess it's a moot point right now.
It's certainly something we can look at for next year, especially if we're going to have 2 foreclosure sales, just to ease the process, because it's going to be a lot of work. So it's something we can certainly take a look at, especially if we go, the double one is going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, they certainly said that they worked with communities that have a similar proposal sale method that, it's not an auction on their website, but they still take photos and inventory and everything like that.
Yeah, we'd have to probably either go out to bid or see if we can piggyback off another municipality for that work.
Yeah, and I think there are other companies in the area that would probably be interested in bidding on documenting our foreclosed properties and helping them sell. So, I think a bid probably makes sense. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Further questions, discussion?
Council President.
Yes, Councilmember Gully.
We drew some curiosity there, Councilman Cummings. Since you got that information, did they give you any idea of what they were looking to do or charge the city for that process?
No, there was just a brief conversation when I was picking up some items at an unrelated bid. So yeah, no details. They did say they made a presentation to the mayor maybe 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago now. So I don't know.
I think I recall that.
That proposal wasn't compelling enough yet, but maybe it's worth another look if we're looking at our sale process. And then, yeah, I think that's it.
So my thought would be that it certainly entertains the thought of seeing what they would do and what they could offer us, maybe even before we get to that double list. But I think that at least getting the information to kind of know where we're at would help us make a good decision moving forward, because maybe this could, they sell the county property, and I've been on a couple of, the prices go really high. So they're expanding out to a broader range of people. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad, because we want to we want to help Troy people first. So, how in that negotiation, we'd have to probably look at that too, because, we're looking basically for home ownership instead of just investor rentals.
Council President.
But I wonder if that could
Hold on.
work. Excuse me, I still have the floor,
Councilmember.
Councilwoman. But I think that could be a benefit to everyone involved, just to get the information so we know what we have in front of us, as we move forward. Easier to have it than not.
Monica.
So Jim, just to respond to that, I think what we would use their services for is to document the facilities and then actually just promote them instead of doing the bidding. I think that's the challenge that we've faced in our neighborhoods right now from years and decades of auctioning off instead of actually looking at proposals. So I think it's something we can blend together if that's the direction we want to go. But we can I know, I will be really honest with you, it's something that Sharon has been talking about. And it could be something that we take a look at as we walk into 2022. Like I said, with 2 foreclosure processes, it takes a long time just for the legal aspect of that, but also then for the other piece of that. So it's certainly something we can look at, but we would still accept proposals. They would just help us advertise it and document it.
Council President?
Hold on, Councilmember Gully, you're on mute. You're on mute. Councilmember Gully, we did not hear a word you said. You're still on mute. You're on mute, Councilmember Cummings, while Councilmember Gully is fixing his mute button.
He could type his comment into the chat.
I just want to know the actual bidding process. Did we get any other bids? How were the 18% plus 10% come to? Is that just what it's been for years, or is that?
We received 4 responses, including Collar City. Criteria was, municipal experience, location to Troy, cost, but also process. Process was a very big criteria. Collar City was not the cheapest, I will be honest. But they were the only ones who performed the entire process start to finish. All the other proposals had functions of city staff responsible for them. For example, the bidding process was run by city staff. It's all under the charter, comes out of my office. I don't have staff to do that as we currently sit here today. So the question becomes, what's the buried cost? If the city were to go with another of the responders, there's certainly an overhead cost that's associated with that process. And what is that cost in relation to the 18 and 10 that Colorado City charges? It's not quantifiable. But they, Colorado City does the entire auction process. The only things the city's responsible for is opening the doors so they can go in and take the pictures, and opening the doors so they can dispose of the property when it's sold. That's our role in the process. It works very well. We've been very happy with the services that they've provided.
Councilmember Gully, you are not on mute. I believe you have found the unmute button.
I had to check out.
I saw that. It was quick.
I am not a technical genius, let me tell you. These buttons go faster than my fingers can press them. But anyways, Monica, I agree with you. Not to have them sell, but I think that projecting them out would be a good thing. I know they do a lot for the county. They get some good money. Maybe they would bring in more people, but I don't want to lose sight of what we're really trying to do here is bring in homeowners into Troy, not investors, not any more investors than we already have. We have some great investors in a city, but I'd like to see some people that'll plant their own flowers in those places for 10 or 20 years. So I just think using them as a tool, we might want to find out what they would charge us for that, so we know going forward where we are, because if we have the information, then we can make a logical decision moving forward. Thank you. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you, Councilmember Gully. And quite frankly, I don't want to see anyone lose their home to begin with. So whatever we can do to keep people out of foreclosure is also a good thing. Further discussions, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, resolution 72 carries 7-0. Resolution 73, resolution accepting the 2020 financial audit, single audit of federal expenditures, and single audit of New York State Department of Transportation expenditures as prepared for by the Bonadio Group. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, thank you. Is there a second?
I will second.
Oh,
Give it
Councilmember
to Kim.
Gully.
Give it to Councilwoman Ash
It's
McPherson.
okay. You got it. Listen, you found your unmute button, so you get
All
it.
right.
So
I did find
Councilmember
it.
Gully. Seconds, discussion. We just had a great presentation. Concerns, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, resolution 73 carries 7-0. Very quickly, we are going right into a special meeting. I just wanted to announce that before you take off. So please don't take off. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Nothing.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. And I think we have to give Mara, 30 seconds to switch it over? Oh,
No,
I'm
we're
sorry.
gonna keep going straight
Okay.
through.
Sorry about that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we are closing the finance meeting at 7-0. And now we'll go into the special meeting. Hold on one sec. All right. Special meeting. I was a little ambitious and scheduled it for 7:15. It's 8:11, so that's not too bad, not too bad. Listen, I knew we weren't going to hit 7:15. All right, let's please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Councilmember Cummings, I did bring the pledge. Let's see, Councilmember McDermott, how about leading us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember McDermott. Roll call. Mara.
Councilmember Gully,
Yep, I'm here.
Councilmember Ash McPherson,
Present.
Councilmember Steele,
Still present.
Councilmember Cummings,
Present?
Councilmember Zaluski,
Here.
Councilmember McDermott,
Here,
Council President Mantello.
I am here.
Seven present, none
Presentation.
absent.
Sorry. Thank you, Mara. Sorry about that. Presentation of the agenda. We only have one item, resolution 73, which was just approved in finance. Public forum. We do have a speaker, Mara, if the person hung out over an hour.
I'm not even sure if they logged in to begin with, but if they did, they unfortunately did not last through that previous meeting. So hopefully they will email if they have any questions or concerns.
Thank you very much. Local laws none, ordinances none, resolution 73.
Resolution accepting the 2020 financial audit, single audit of federal expenditures, and single audit of New York State Department
Yes,
of
sir.
Transportation expenditures.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm in my council meeting.
Councilmember Gully. Yeah. Go ahead, Mara. Sorry.
Single audit of New York State Department of Transportation expenditures as prepared by the Bonadio Group. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion. I just want to say kudos. Yes.
Can I just make a point? And I'll be brief. Alan brought up the part about, he had made a comment earlier about departments and not everything can be relied upon within this office. I don't necessarily, I think, I just want to expand on that for 2 seconds. I think part of that comes from accounting is very nuanced, right? We talked about it in the revenue recognition policy, where a very simple explanation brings up things like exchange and non-exchange transactions. One of the corrections, for lack of better words, is looking to have employees who work in other departments go to training provided from the state comptroller's office, so that there is an understanding of just basic accounting principles, which I think correlates to what is in that management letter as well. So I think that's a piece of it, and it's not necessarily the department heads did something wrong or the departments did something wrong, but more that there's a training component that needs to occur, and that is part of the solution to what is in that letter. So I just wanted to expand upon that because I didn't want it to linger like departments did something wrong, because at the end of the day, the onus is on my office, and we've corrected it, and we will make sure that that's not there. I just didn't want that lingering of there has to be a training component to it so that departments are responsible.
Makes sense, Andy. Thank you very much for that clarification. Further questions, discussion, comments?
Council President?
Yes, council members.
I just want to say, Andy, we did not, well, at least I didn't interpret anything like that, but appreciate you speaking up anyway. But we think you guys are doing a fantastic job. So,
Council,
yeah, council member Cummings.
just because this will be my last opportunity to discuss this with you. Have you thought any more about, made any more progress on the plans towards inventorying our assets?
I'd love to do it, and it costs, Bonadeo thinks it costs anywhere up, it can cost up to $200,000 to do.
Yeah,
And that's a significant cost.
it is certainly.
Worthwhile. Everyone knows I want to get rid of that opinion, but there is a significant cost associated with it because the city, for whatever reason, did not do it at the time that GASB was implemented.
Yeah, yeah. I think the cost is a lot, and it's scary to think about it doing it all at once. But we say over and over again, the city is a terrible landlord. The city doesn't maintain their assets, and if we don't account for our assets, I think that it's not the only reason we don't maintain our assets, but part of it is that we're not seeing them depreciate on our balance sheet and saying, maybe we need to be reinvesting in that. It's depreciating that quickly. So, I think there are, budgetary reasons it could be helpful, but I think there are also operational and just strategic reasons where it could be really beneficial for the city. So just continue to keep looking out for opportunities to do parts of it or whatever else. Yeah, thanks.
And, Andy, being at an engineering firm that did quite a bit of these for municipalities, that $200K, I think it's definitely 3 times that once you get into it. But who knows? But saying that, it depends how far you want to go. But it is very worthwhile and is something I think all of us need to eventually invest in doing. So, okay. Yeah.
That it would come to a point in the future where it was required of us?
No, the city would just keep getting adverse opinions.
Okay.
Very good job once again, Andy, and your team, obviously.
Thank you.
Further discussion, questions, comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolution 73 passes 7 ayes, 0 noes.
Before we adjourn, I just want to take a moment of silence. Chris Whalen lost his father this past week. He's our DPU superintendent, and just out of respect for Chris and his family, if we could just take a moment of silence, please. Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Councilmember Zaluski, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Ash McPherson. Discussion on the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Hopefully next meeting won't be hybrid. Good night, everyone.
See you later.
Bye.